Welcome to the very first episode of the Outfit Repeaters podcast. I'm Megan.
I'm Shelby.
And we are your hosts. This week we are kicking it off with Season 1, Episode 1. But with this being our very first episode, we thought we would start with a little bit about us and a little bit about our relationship to Disney. So, Shelby, tell me about your relationship to the Disney Channel.
Yes, I was definitely more alongside of the Disney kid as opposed to like Nickelodeon. I had my few Nickelodeon shows, but overall I really liked the Disney because I don't know what it was. Something about Hilary Duff specifically and also Raven Simone. They were like my idols growing up. I loved everything that they did. I loved every outfit they wore, every movie they made. So when I think back to like watching my childhood shows and when I'm like, oh, I need a hit of nostalgia, I go watch Lizzie McGuire, That's So Raven, and those are my absolutes icons. I love both of them. Still to this day, I follow everything they do. Just love everything about them. And I just really liked also how Disney, back when we watched it, like growing up in the early 2000s, there was like a sense of like Lizzie McGuire was just a regular family. And there wasn't like I loved Hannah Montana too. There wasn't like some big ploy or plot twist like, oh, she's a regular girl, but she's also a pop star. I love Hannah Montana too, don't get me wrong. Or like, it's a family of wizards, and that came along after my time. So, but I love Selena Gomez. But I just loved Lizzie because I felt like she was just a regular kid. And I loved Raven because she's hilarious. And there was a normalcy side to her as well. Like, yes, she's a teen psychic, but she was also still relatable. Like, her and her family had very real plot lines and stories. So I just loved the two of them. I still do. And I'm so excited to go down this journey. And I watch these as an adult, and I still find them entertaining. Like,
same.
The time, it holds the test of time.
It does. Yeah, very similar. I was also pretty strictly a Disney kid. There was a very small handful of Nickelodeon shows that I watched, but it was almost exclusively Disney all the time in my household. And you had mentioned how Lizzie/Hilary Duff and Raven were your idols growing up, and I had a very similar experience that also kind of led to like my very first instance of bullying in middle school. So I had started
Lizzie and Raven.
I know. I had started at a new middle school in a new town in the 6th grade, and I had, for my locker, gone through all of my little teeny bopper magazines and cut out pictures of the actors and singers and everybody that I liked. And it was boys and girls. There were a lot of pictures of Hilary Duff because she was my idol, but then there were also pictures of Chad Michael Murray and Daniel Radcliffe and all kinds of things. And the kids at my school were like, oh, you have pictures of girls in your locker? That must make you a lesbian. So I took it down and pretended like I didn't like Lizzie McGuire, even though I still did. But ride or die, absolutely love Disney. And, you had mentioned that you kind of continually follow everything that Hilary and Raven kind of do to this day. And, I feel so like vindicated that Hilary Duff is like the one Disney Channel star that never did anything crazy. Like, she never had public struggles with drugs or alcohol. She didn't have torrid affairs. Like, she got married, she started a family, and like, she seems for the most part like a regular girl. And like, I just love that about her.
I know, and I'm sure just like you and a lot of people out there, like the Lizzie McGuire reboot that was supposed to happen and it got canceled. But I will say, when I was doing research for this, apparently somewhere it lives on Reddit. The script to the first episode has been leaked.
Interesting.
So if you when I was searching for this script all online, I searched like Lizzie McGuire episode 1 script, and that popped up. And so apparently it lives on Reddit somewhere. So if you start, I'm gonna have to do a deep dive later.
And that's something else that I really respect about Hilary Duff as well, because I know that as far as what was said publicly about canceling that reboot was that she wanted it to be genuine to who Lizzie would be as an adult. And, you know, content wise, the producers were not comfortable with some of the things that she wanted to do and share and, you know, work into the fabric of that character. And so, you know, even though I'm devastated that they didn't move forward with that and they did pull the plug on that project, to know that she did it because she could not give us an authentic Lizzie McGuire in her 30s, like, that really makes me respect her a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, too. Yes. And also, have you ever watched any of Raven's Home?
No, I actually haven't.
Megan, it is hysterical.
So the only like reboot type show that I have watched has been Girl Meets World, and I had a really soft spot for that show. I loved that show. That was incredible. Maybe, you know, depending on what you guys think, that could be a forthcoming piece of content from us. But I will add Raven's Home to the watch list.
It is so, like, I can tell Raven played a big part in the making of the show and the writing of the script, and how, because her character is still very, in my opinion, genuine to who she was as the original show. And I just, oh my gosh, I love it. It is so funny. Her, like, raising her twins, like, to see her as a mom and, like, try to divulge. Chelsea ends up having a son as well, and her husband got put in jail for, like, money laundering or something.
Oh my God.
So her and her son move in with Raven, and Raven's divorced from Devon, if you remember Devon.
Not Devon.
Yes, Devon. So, but oh my gosh, it is hysterical. They eventually move, the original show started, I think it was in Chicago, but they move into Raven's, like, original house in San Francisco later.
I love that. Love the
gosh.
callback.
So funny. So 10 out of 10. Great.
Well, speaking of shows, are you, outside of the Disneyverse, are you watching anything good these days?
I am rewatching Reign, about Mary Queen of Scots, for the third time.
For the third time.
I love it. It's a good show. It's on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
So, I love it.
Yeah.
What are you watching?
So it's very clear that there's going to be a theme here that you and I are both big, like, rewatchers and big on 100%. Like, comfort shows. So really all that I'm watching, like, new to me right now are just old seasons of Survivor. My husband and I sit down. Oh my gosh. Well, my husband and I sit down and watch, like, probably 2 or 3 episodes a night. We love it. We love kind of, like, picking apart things from a third-party perspective and what should have happened or what should have been said. Obviously, you can never know, you know, unless you live it, unless you're there. And editing plays a lot into that, of course. But it's just, like, it's definitely, like, a fun bonding thing for us to kind of, like, watch and predict what might happen next.
Oh, I love that. Oh, yeah. Rewatch. My husband and I also watch. We started back at season 1 of Big Brother. So we started, like, I guess about a year ago in season 1 of Big Brother, and it has been, like, I think we've watched, like, the current season, so that kind of slowed us down a little bit, but I think we just watched the episode that happened in, like, season 13. It was whatever was the year 2012 was, so.
Okay. That's about where we are in the Survivor
was.
Universe as well.
Yes. And Survivor and Big Brother, but CBS, so.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, are we ready to get into it?
We're ready. Okay. Yes.
Hold on, I was going to see when this episode aired. Hold on, I was going to look that up before. So this is, fun fact, not the pilot episode.
Oh, interesting.
The pilot episode is listed on Disney Plus as episode 3, which was the Danny Kessler pool party episode.
Good one.
Was the original pilot. So this is not the original pilot. I don't know if, like, they got out of order on Disney Plus, but we're doing this in the order that it's listed on Disney Plus. So maybe it did air first, or maybe it did not. But this one originally aired January 12th, 2001. And I guess I would have been... I was in first grade, I guess, when this episode aired.
Oh, you're going to make me do math right now.
Well, you were 2 grades ahead of me, so you would have been in 3rd grade.
Yeah, that seems right.
So, this is what I always, like, kind of, like, divide the Lizzie McGuire episodes up is short hair Lizzie and long hair Lizzie.
Yeah.
And I definitely remember long hair Lizzie more than short hair Lizzie.
Yeah.
I guess short hair Lizzie is season 1. And you can just tell she's so young in this episode.
So young.
And they all are. And even like the first, when we get to the Danny Kessler pool party episode, even like Gordo and Miranda are so much younger in that one episode. And maybe they came back and like filmed the rest of it much later, but you could tell there was a lot of... There's my cat.
That's pretty typical. That's pretty typical of pilots that, you know, you shoot it and then maybe like 6 or 9 months go by before the show officially gets picked up. Okay. And then you start like a regular shooting season. So if that was the case, that what we're calling episode 3 on Disney Plus is actually the pilot, that would make sense why they look a whole lot younger in that episode, because there were probably somewhere between 6 and 9 months that passed before they continued shooting.
For sure. And we'll get to it when we get to that episode, but even, like, the set just looks pilot-y.
Yeah.
Like, it is not, like...
Low budget.
It's not what we're used to. Okay, so, we start off at school, and we see little signs around the school hallway that says, cheerleader tryouts. Do you have what it takes to be a cheerleader? And then right off the bat, we get animated Lizzie, as she says... As internal monologue Lizzie always goes into, like, her deep inner thoughts. She was like, I know what you're thinking. Me, Lizzie McGuire, a cheerleader? What's up with that? I mean, nothing could be more superficial, demeaning, and shallow. Cheerleading is like this plot to make girls feel bad about themselves. And then she says, but I hope I make it, I hope I make it, I hope I make it. So, and then we see something I really like is, it also, like, even does these little like quick clips of like something that she is thinking. It shows the like cheerleaders like floating down the hallway like
I had noted that this opening sequence with the cheerleaders with like the smoke and like the red lights like absolutely took me out.
Yes, I'm just like, oh my God. Those uniforms though are so like 1998. And
they are, and like, so I think I had said this, and I had said this later, but like, since we're talking about uniforms now, like, what is with the orange fluffy things in their hair? They don't match the uniform, and this is like something that we'll consistently see every time we have an episode involving the cheerleaders. So I thought that was really interesting, like an interesting thing, and I wonder, maybe we could look into it, maybe there's some lore about the orange fluffy scrunchies.
Maybe. Okay, so then we cut to the gang, Miranda, Lizzie, and Gordo. They're in the lunch line, and Miranda says, you want to try out for cheerleader? Are you crazy? Do you want to risk humiliating yourself in front of the whole school? And in this particular episode, in this spot, I said, Miranda has spider orange pom-pom braids in her hair.
I said exactly the same thing. I said, Miranda and the spider buns, oh my God. And then I also said, the school cafeteria buffet is robust. Alabama public schools could
Literally,
never.
I know. I was like, this is so much food. Like,
and it all looks so fresh. Like,
I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, but these pom-pom braids, I took a second and I was like processing it. It's like just little... There's just little braids sticking out, and I'm just like...
You calling them, like, spider buns is spot on for what the visual of what we're actually seeing is.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so they go back and forth. Lizzie says, I think I have a chance, and Gordo, in his infinite wisdom, says, if you ask me, and of course they're dismissive of Gordo.
Not gonna.
Poor Gordo, he gets no respect. And then they says, any group activity that forces others to be happy is by nature evil. Which sounds exactly like something Gordo would say. He's so, like, from the jump, philosophical.
Like, yeah, everything is, like, an existential crisis in Gordo's mind.
I know, and I wanted to see the reboot, and one of the biggest things I was looking forward to is, what is Gordo doing? Like...
He would probably be, like, a philosophy professor or something.
Yes. Or I could see him, like... I don't know. Something about him, I could also see him being like a Dr. Phil-esque. Of like...
I'm just envisioning,
like...
I'm envisioning a very extensive collection of blazers / sweaters a la Neil from the Santa Claus. Spot on.
Okay, and Lizzie says, and that's why I didn't ask you. And then Gordo goes to continue on with his philosophy and his infinite wisdom. He says, I just don't understand this herd mentality, which he mentions several times in this episode, the herd mentality, that tells us what to wear, what to eat. And then he says, ooh, McNuggets. Where'd you get McNuggets in the lunch line?
I don't know, but it kind of makes me want nuggets.
Literally. I would love to. In Alabama right now, we are snowed in, and we got quite a bit of snow last night. Did you get quite a bit of snow last night?
Yeah, so I actually live, like 2-ish hours further north than Shelby does, so, I think we ended up getting probably close to 4 inches.
Which is a big deal in Alabama.
It is, yeah.
Yes. So, I would love to go get some nuggets, but
Snowed
who
in.
knows if the roads are, safe, so... I will say Birmingham did do a good job of salting the roads this time beforehand.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we switched to cheer tryouts, and Lizzie just, bless her heart, that's all I need to say.
She bombs.
That's all I need to say about that. And I had a few thoughts about the tryouts.
Oh, please.
One, why are there current cheerleaders judging?
Yeah.
Do they not have to retry out? Because my school sports team, I had to retry out every year, and I was judged by adults that don't work in the building.
Correct.
Which is how every other sports team in the world at schools work, in my opinion. Yeah. And also, and this is, so my husband actually watched this with me, and he said, why are they trying out in front of the whole school?
Yeah.
Like, if you look in the background, there's kids in the bleachers, like, there's this PE class, and they're like, oh, I guess this is what we're doing today. Like,
I don't know. My thought as someone who tried out for and did not make the cheerleading squad twice was that I've been through this process, and like Lizzie just gets out there and like does her thing, whereas like when I tried out for cheerleading, there was like a multi-day thing that led up to the actual tryouts where you would where you would learn the routine that you were expected to, like some sort of like little dance routine you were expected to perform. Yeah. And then you would go through the jumps that you would be expected to do. And then the only thing that you got like free will over was your entrance, where you, if you could tumble, had the option to use the tumbling mat and tumble. But that was it. And Lizzie just goes out there and shakes her pom-poms and does her little like half-assed high kicks. And, and like, I'm so sorry, Lizzie, but it's no wonder you didn't make it. Like you didn't have any sort of like structure going in.
No preparation at all.
No preparation.
She was just like, you know what? At PE today, they're having cheer tryouts, and I think
I'm going to do it.
I'm
going to go for it.
I'm going to do it.
Good for her.
You know what? I love the confidence, though. She went out there, and she smiled, and she held her head high, and I love the confidence, though. I will give her that. That was impressive. Okay, so, internal monologue Lizzie says the only thing worse than my cheerleading was nothing. At least I didn't try out for javelin. So, which is an interesting concept. All right, so now we transition to the McGuire home. I've always loved their house. I've always thought it was beautiful. I am obsessed with their home. And I don't know, just always loved the McGuire household.
I love the like indoor outdoor of their home, like the backyard and the back deck. Like it just always seems so inviting, and like you just know that the McGuire house is where everybody always wanted to hang out.
Oh yeah, like Gordo and Miranda are there when Lizzie's not there several times throughout the series.
I mean, respectfully, I would be too.
They just go and are like, we are always here. But yes, so her dad Sam says, I never liked cheerleaders anyway. They're always so snooty. And Lizzie McGuire, you are no snoot. And then her mom tries to say, she's trying to cope with her parents and say she's fine. Her mom is trying to comfort her. And in the background, we hear her little brother Matt say, here, ugly little Lizzie. Here, girl. Which obviously upsets human Lizzie.
Yeah.
And she's like, what did you just call that thing? And he just so casually is like, ugly.
Ugly.
And then she says, you called it Lizzie. And he says, well, there's no denying the resemblance. And Matt always hits us with the good comebacks. I will say that. Sometimes he plays up annoying little brother like no other character on television. But He did a good job. His little sassy comebacks were very good. Which he also has a recap podcast of Lizzie McGuire. Jake Thomas, the actor of Lizzie
Go off,
McGuire.
Jake.
I know.
Well, Jake, if you're listening, we would love to have you as a guest.
We would love to have Jake Thomas as a guest. So then Joe, her mom, and Sam, her dad, go into like talking about the class pet, the lizard, Lizzie the lizard. And then Lizzie says, I'm outie. I'm outie. I have a book report due tomorrow, and I haven't even finished the book. And I'm just like, that sounds like me. But
Same.
I just love I'm outie. Such a 2001 thing to say.
Very.
Which, if this aired in 2001, they filmed this in 2000.
In 2000. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. 25 years ago.
Ugh.
I know. It's crazy. So then her mom goes into she says, are you okay? And Lizzie says, it's fine. I'm just not the cheerleader type. I'm more of a band geek.
Or a rhythmic gymnastics geek, as we will see later.
That's one of my favorite episodes.
Literally.
That and Grubby Gulch. Grubby Gulch is my favorite episode. And then Joe tries to go into comforting mom mode, and Lizzie calls it the pep talk number 243 from the mother-daughter handbook. And she starts listing off all of these things that she likes about Lizzie. She says, just to name a few, you're beautiful, you have great friends, Gordo and Miranda are wonderful, you're smart, you're decent, you're compassionate, you're funny, you're cute, you're talented. There's nothing geek about you. You're helpful around the house, Sam says. She's kind to strangers. And Matt coming in again and says, don't forget, she's housebroken. Oh my gosh.
And what a solid comeback for a child of Matt's age, because we're assuming that the age gap between Lizzie and Matt is probably 3 years.
2 to 3 years, yeah.
Which would make Matt 10 years old.
Which I respect it, Matt.
It's a fire comeback for a 10-year-old.
As someone who is also a younger sibling, and I had an older brother, so I lived to annoy my older brother. I respect it. Okay, so now we go up to Lizzie in her room, and she's on instant message, which just brought back a whole bunch of memories.
What was your screen name?
I think I was something very generic, like Bama Fan 1227.
I had half a dozen different screen names. I would just get new ones as the tides changed. But the most recent one in memory was Spazzy Blonde 524.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I loved my IMs. Oh my gosh, away messages. The cryptic
away message happened to be my specialty.
Oh, absolutely. You wanted someone to know you were mad at them. That was the way to do it.
That was the way to do it. And also, I just want to say a moment for both Lizzie and Miranda's matching pajamas.
I wrote that down.
I'm a matching pajama queen. Lizzie is in monkeys, think a la Paul Frank monkeys, and Miranda is in giraffes.
I couldn't remember what brand it was that had those.
It's Paul Frank.
What a throwback. Hold on, I have to cough again. So Lizzie runs to her computer, and it's Miranda, and Miranda says, I'm telling you now to avoid major devastation tomorrow. And she says, Kate made cheerleader. And then Lizzie says, well, you know why she made it, don't you? And then Miranda asks why, and Lizzie says, 'cause Kate stuffs her bra. And then, right as Lizzie says that, Miranda's computer does what all the computers did in the early 2000s and freezes up.
Yep.
And what did we do in 2001 to resolve the computers being frozen? We hit it on the side of the monitor, thinking that
that helps.
That helped it. And so that's what Miranda does. She hits her computer, just smacks it on the side of the monitor, and then somehow that reaction sent that entire message about Kate stuffing her bra to the whole class roster. Dun, dun, dun. Which is such a time period of this trope from other shows too. That text message got sent to the entire school. Who has the entire school's phone number? That's just what I'm wondering.
Nobody, unless you go to a really small school. I mean, I personally, my graduating class was over 400 people.
Same.
I couldn't even name all of them. So,
I didn't know.
for me to
Yeah.
have contact information for every last one of those 400 was just never going to happen in a real world.
When I graduated high school, I didn't even know the people on either side of me. Like, who are you? So the next day we see the kids at school and they're in the stairwell and Miranda tells Lizzie that the computer got sent to the entire school and Miranda tries to comfort her and says, just the people with computers. And Gordo says, that can't be more than 86%. Which, I didn't have a computer in my room.
I did.
Ever growing up. Ooh, fancy. I didn't have my own, like, computer until I had a laptop when I went off to college.
Oh, wow.
I had my shared family computer all the way growing up. So Lizzie starts freaking out and says that Kate's going to crush her, and then we see Kate Sanders for the very first time. Okay, Ashley, how do you say her last name? Do you know? Ashley?
Brialt.
Okay, respect for Ashley. Respect for Ashley because she is no longer acting. She is a defense attorney now.
She is.
And I think that is such a Kate Sanders move.
I think so too.
And, like, oh my gosh, like, good for her. Like, she has really slayed the game. But one thing I noted also about Kate was something looks different about her. So I went back and looked at episodes from later seasons, and her hair in this episode is so flat. Like, she has it straightened, flat, ironed, like, on top. And later on, we see Kate's in, like, beauty pageants, giant hair, curls cascading down. I was like, oh my gosh, Kate, your hair is so flat, girl. Okay, so so Kate says, who did it? And, and Lizzie starts, like, panicking. She's like, and then Miranda was like, I did it. I'm really sorry. And then, some teenage boy, no, they're like 7th grade, so they're probably 12, 13. He says, hey, Kate, got any extra tissue?
Bless.
And then Kate says, you're going to pay for this, which is so, like, I feel like later season Kate would yell that. It's like, you're going to pay for this.
Oh, for sure.
This Kate is so, like, subdued. And I wrote later that I'm really glad Ashley, what is it, Brialt?
Yeah.
Okay, Ashley Brialt's acting, she really leaned into the menace of Kate's.
Yeah.
Because she was not the Kate we know and love in this episode. Like, she definitely was like...
She builds.
She does. But I would love to see later season Kate do this episode, because this Kate was very subdued compared to later ones. And also at this point, we don't know the lore behind why Lizzie, Miranda, and Gordo are no longer friends, or that they were friends to begin with, and
with Kate.
With Kate, yes.
Yeah.
And Kate was part of their friend group, and then we don't get an explanation until episode 3, which is the Danny Kessler pool party episode.
Yeah.
So,
which would also make sense if that was actually the original pilot, that we get that lore in episode 1, but it's for some reason either due to Disney Plus or due to some other reason, unbeknownst to us. It's fine.
Yeah, Kate says, you're going to pay for this. Miranda says, what's your problem? I said I was sorry, which, like, I would still be hurt, even though you said you were sorry. So I felt Kate, her feelings should be acknowledged. Maybe she didn't handle it the right way, but her feelings should be acknowledged.
For sure.
And then she says, well, sorry doesn't cut it. I'd watch it if I were you. Ooh. And then Miranda says, is that a threat? And then Kate says, could be. See you around. And Miranda says, I'll be
be around. I just said, she's an icon. She's a legend.
And then Lizzie says, why did you do that? Why didn't you let me tell Kate that I sent the instant message? And Miranda says, please, you can't handle this kind of conflict. And then Lizzie says, yes, I can. And then Gordo says, you ate strawberry ice cream at Bethany Edelstein's birthday party, even though you're allergic and you swelled up like a balloon. And Lizzie says, I'm just being polite. So, yes, they keep going on. And then Miranda says, finally, standing up to Kate might be fun. And then animated Lizzie is content with this and says, who am I to deny my best friend the thing that makes her happy? So, which would be standing up to Kate, I guess.
I am Miranda, she is me. Like that honestly would be my reaction, where I'd be like, I can't wait to make someone else's life miserable for sport.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we go back to the McGuire home with Sam and Joe, and they're looking at the lizard tank. And they say, you don't think she could have escaped, do you? And then it shows us this montage of the parents looking around. And it's such a, like, panic, you're looking for something mode. Like, they're looking in the VCR, they're looking in the microwave, they're looking, like, all these obscure places that I thought was kind of funny.
That was hilarious. My favorite was the VCR, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I was like, oh, my God. The VCR, oh, good times.
A relic.
Oh, it really is. Okay, so we go back to school, and this was the hardest part for me to watch, was Miranda's absolute humiliation during the next part. I felt so bad for her. We see Claire for the first time in this episode, another cheerleader who is Kate's new best friend, and she says,
and future sidekick.
Yes, future sidekick. And she tells Miranda that Danny Kessler wants to talk to her. And she says, that's what he told me in Soch, which I'm assuming is social studies class.
I would guess so, yeah.
Which I teach social studies, so that encouraged me a little bit. And then she says, why don't you go see what he wants? And then Miranda and Lizzie talk about going to talk to Danny. And Miranda goes and talks to him. And he was like, she goes, hi, Danny. And he's like, hi. And then she says, Claire said you wanted to talk to me. He goes, no.
No.
Oh my gosh, my heart hurts. Miranda's like, really? Because Claire said, and then you see in the background the table of Kate and Claire and other cheerleaders laughing at what they did. They set Miranda up. So,
the worst.
When you're 12, that's probably the worst thing in the world that can happen to you.
Oh, for sure.
All right, so now we're back with Lizzie the Lizard, or not Lizzie the Lizard because she's disappeared. So we see the parents, and Matt comes home, and he says, Miss Gerber let me out early to check on Lizzie, which I have questions about how he got out of school.
Literally, that was my first thought.
Because
like, teachers can't just of their own free will be like, yeah, you can go home early.
You can go home. Yes, so I am a teacher, and one, we know he wasn't in carpool because the parents were not there to pick him up from the carpool. Did the bus just come get him, take him home, and then go back to the school?
Or does he live walking distance from the school?
I don't know, because later, remember, he misses the bus. And
Yep.
he and Lanny go on this adventure.
Jaunt.
Yes. So, and also, yeah, you can't just be like, yeah, you can go. Like,
Yeah.
that is so much legal trouble waiting to happen.
Mrs. Gerber, you left a really big plot hole here.
Yes, Mrs. Gerber. And also, girl, maybe you shouldn't let your students out of class early, because if something happened to them, it'd be your fault. Just
Correct.
saying. Never. So, yes, he goes and looks at the lizard tank, and he says, oh, there she is. She must be sleeping. And the parents are befuddled. They're like, what? Really? Where? And also, if they spent all day looking for this lizard, maybe Joe's a stay-at-home mom, but doesn't Sam have a job?
Yeah.
But he spent the whole day looking for the lizard?
It was a lizard emergency.
Interesting. Okay, so they established that Lizzie the lizard was asleep in the tank, but is camouflaged. And then Matt says, her color's weird. She seems grayer than usual. Colder, too. Didn't you change the water this morning, Dad? And then he's like, me? I thought, and Joe tries to save the day. Of course he did! And then Matt's like putting the pieces together, and he says, then why is her why is she looks dead. Drama queen. And then he's like, I'll never be able to show my face in school again. Not ever. And then we transition back, and we're left on a cliffhanger until the next time we see Matt. All right, so now Miranda and Kate are terrorizing each other at school, and Miranda puts tissues in Kate's locker, and Kate opens her locker, and they all fall out.
And my question here is that this seems to be like such a trope in like teen, early aughts TV shows where like someone's locker is filled with something. How do they get in there? Like, literally. The only thing I was ever able to do was put a note through the slats in someone's locker, but like you cannot fill someone's locker bottom to top with tissues without having the combination.
And also without somebody seeing you and being like, Kate, somebody's putting stuff in your locker. Somebody's putting, or Miranda's putting tissues in your locker, and she would have been caught red-handed.
Absolutely. And furthermore, I always had teachers that had like hall duty in between classes.
Exactly.
Like, a teacher would have seen that.
Okay, so that was a question I had at the pep rally. I did not see a single adult in this entire school.
No.
Like, where is Mr. Dig? Where is Mr. Sweetie? Where are they?
I don't know.
Remember that art teacher they had?
Yeah.
I was like, don't forget your hands.
Yep.
On the hand mural day, like,
or Mr. Escobar, the gym teacher,
Escobar.
Or not gym teacher. I'm sorry, drama teacher.
Or her rhythmic gymnastics coach, Was it Coach Kelly?
Yeah, I think so.
Where was she? Because she would have said like Sanchez.
Yes.
I just have a lot of questions. So then we see Miranda. No, it is Kate. Sorry. Kate goes and makes a bunch of copies of posters, which also, again, I'm assuming that at any school I've ever worked in or been in, if students want to use the printers, they have to pay like a dime. How does she make all these copies without a teacher seeing what she printed on them?
What school system are they in, and what's their budget?
Oh my gosh. It just makes no sense. But, and also I wrote down the computers because they're those giant monitors and like, oh my gosh. It reminded me of like the first computer we had in our house.
Yep.
So Kate makes these posters of Miranda that says, Lost Dog answers to Miranda with her picture on it, and posts them all over the school. And, oh my gosh. That I feel like is also, an early 2000s trope of TV shows of like putting flyers around and
for sure
want to humiliate. And this is before Mean Girls, when Regina George did the same thing in the Burn book.
Yeah.
So they got that idea from Lizzie McGuire or Kate Sanders, I should say. Lizzie starts to feel her guilt, and she's trying to tear the pictures down. Miranda takes it to a whole new level, though, when she sneaks into the locker room and puts green hair dye in Kate's perfume, and she sprays it all over her hair.
Yeah, that was a question mark for me, too. But,
they have hair perfume these days.
For sake of the plot, we got to just look the other way.
Right. So Lizzie is still freaking out. This is at lunch now. I also always liked how they had like a little patio for them to go eat lunch in, like outside.
Oh yeah.
Like a little courtyard. I always thought it was cute. We see Lizzie and Gordo, and she's still like racked with guilt. And Gordo says, "Big deal. You can't handle conflict. I can't handle broccoli, so I've learned to avoid it." Like, not the same thing. Not the same thing, Gordo. Your philosophy has failed you here. And then Lizzie is still battling over, I feel guilty about letting Miranda take the battle, but I'm also petrified at the thought of telling Kate the truth. And then Gordo again says, the herd will learn to follow a new path. You'll see.
Here he goes with the herd again.
The herd. This isn't the last time we hear about this.
No.
And then Miranda pops in and says, good, you guys are here. And Lizzie says, please tell me you and Kate made up. And then we see Kate descending down the stairs, and she is angry. Very, very angry. And she says, which I liked Kate's outfit here. I wrote down she has like a pink sleeveless turtleneck on. and a white denim skirt.
Ugh.
Which I feel like Kate a lot of times wore sleeveless turtlenecks. I feel like I remember her wearing that a lot.
Yeah.
So we see that Kate now has green hair thanks to Miranda.
And the way I cackled at the tragic green extensions. Like, this is before they would really commit to the bit with, like, props and things like that. And, like, you can just tell that they took some, like, green extensions and pieced them in like, over top of her real hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then even Gordo was like, you've taken this nuclear. So even he's acknowledging, like, oh, no, this is not good.
Mm-hmm.
And Miranda, and then Kate comes up to Miranda and says, you've really done it now. And then Miranda says, well, you know me, I'm a big fan of color. And then she, like, gestures to her orange little clip-in hair pieces she has in her hair, and she says, welcome to the club. And then I put that Miranda's orange hair clip-ins match her shirt.
Oh, yes.
And then Lizzie tries again to tell Kate that it was her that sent the instant message, but she freezes up again, and she says, nice manicure. And then Kate's like, whatever. And then she yells back to Miranda, who's sitting behind Lizzie. And she says, Miranda, I'm going to get you if it's the last thing I do. Like, that's from The Wizard of Oz. Oh my gosh. I'll get you, my pretty. Alright, so now we're at Lizzie the Lizard's funeral. And then the whole family goes around and says she was a good lizard. And then Matt gives, I wrote down, a whole eulogy about Lizzie the Lizard, which I wanted to read to you. Matt says, when I think of Lizzie, the things I will remember the most are the way she looked at me and smiled when I came home with her treats, and the way her beady little eyes shined, and the way her tail wagged. Lizzie was much more than a class project to me. She was a friend. A good friend.
And I said here that Matt lowering Lizzie's box into the ground with a toy crane is literally so on brand.
Oh my gosh. Oh, and then, so this is what kind of gets real life Lizzie the girl, her gears turning, and she says, she hears Matt's echoing, a good friend, and then she reimagines the scenario of Miranda taking the blame to Kate, and then and then she's still standing there, and then like standing and staring into the abyss, and the dad's like, Lizzie, the service is over. Why are you still standing here? And then we see Joe say, Matt, why don't you rethink bringing home the hamsters next month? And then,
how many class pets do they have?
I wrote that down because now they're about to talk about the class centipede. I wrote that down too. I said, how many pets does this class have? And they're like, he says, are you kidding? I can't even show my face in school if I don't show up without Lizzie. And he says, Matt, your classmates will understand. And then Matt had a lot of lines for a little boy, and he goes into another story, and he says, 2 weeks ago, Gina Meyerhoff accidentally stepped on the class centipede. She only sprained one of its legs. But Gina, after 2 days of torture, she asked to be moved to another class, and nobody's heard from her since. Rumor has it, she fled the country.
Kids are ruthless.
Like, the idea of having one class pet in my classroom is daunting enough without having... It says hamsters, plural. There's at least 4 creatures that live in this classroom. With, like, 25 children, probably.
And you know what hamsters do? They breed.
And they're, like... You know, you have to keep the cages clean, and they make all this noise. I toyed with the idea of having a fish tank in my classroom, and I was like, no, that's too much work. That is too much work.
Relatable.
So, but yeah. My class will ask me to, like, can we have a class pet? And I'm like, no.
No.
Shut that down real quick. And then Sam is still trying to justify. He says, that manual didn't say a thing about changing the water. And then Joe's like, whatever, murderer.
Which I thought was so, like, almost, like, aggressive for Disney, for them to just say, like, murderer for a show that was, like, aimed at elementary school to middle schoolers.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh, Joe, calm down. Okay, so we see Lizzie up in her room, and her mom's coming in, and animated Lizzie says, please don't ask me what's wrong, please don't ask me what's wrong. And of course, Joe asks her what's wrong, and I wrote down here, Lizzie's pigtails and platform flip-flops.
Incredible. Here is where I'm honing in on the window seat, and I feel like this is also such an early aughts thing with TV shows and like sets in kids' rooms. Like they always had this beautiful window seat that would be the perfect place to sit and contemplate that big test or your crush. And I'm like, it is just perfection.
I loved the window seat. I loved it. So Lizzie asked, like, what tipped you off that something was wrong? And then she was like, because you actually cared about your brother's lizard being upset, so I know you don't actually care, so what's wrong? And then Lizzie asked her, did you ever let someone take the blame for something that you did? And then Joe says that she backed her dad's car into a tree and let her sister take the blame. And Lizzie says, what happened? And her mom says, I finally broke down and told everybody the truth. And she says, did you get in trouble? And Joe says, well, yes, I did get in trouble, but I felt a lot better. And then she encourages Lizzie to fix the problem if she could, and it might make her feel better and start being mean to her brother again. So then we see them in the backyard, or Lizzie and Matt in the backyard, and Lizzie is like doing that thing where you rehearse what you say.
Like when you have an argument in the shower with, someone, so you can like hash out all the details before you actually have it.
Yeah, she's coming up with a plan. She is not going into this like unprepared, absolutely. And it's so funny to, like, see her, like, she's trying to be like, oh, Kate, there you are. And she's like, Miranda, she didn't start that rumor. I did. But I'd back off if I were you. Unless, of course, you want things to get ugly. And then she says to Matt, how was that? And then Matt is still upset. He goes, who cares? My lizard's dead.
Oh.
So, poor Matt. Okay, we're in school, and, I'm trying to remember what room they're in school.
I think it may have been in the hallway.
Another hallway exchange?
Maybe.
Okay. Also, this brings up the age-old question of, how do these kids have so much hallway stand-around time?
Couldn't be me.
No, not at all.
I think our changing periods were, 6 minutes, and there were times where you had to get from one building all the way across campus somewhere else.
There's so much hallway standing around time.
And the hallway standing around time, I had so many teachers that were like, that's your bathroom time, so don't ask to go to the bathroom in my class.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. So we see Lizzie, Gorda, and Miranda again, and Kate is there as well. And Lizzie again, what is this, the third time? Tries to tell Kate what happened. And she says, I just want to tell you that. And Kate's getting, annoyed with her. She's like, I don't have all day. And then... Honestly,
I would be the same, because anytime someone's talking to me and having a hard time, getting to the point, I'm like, spit it out.
And then she was like, your shoelaces are untied. And I was just like, were they?
She was probably wearing platform flip-flops.
Oh, a good platform flip-flop.
And then probably not a shoelace in sight.
No, not at all. Because back then they were not wearing fashionable sneakers that we have now.
No.
It was flip-flops, sandals, or bust.
Precisely.
You did not have fashionable flip-flops. Okay, so I wrote this down. Kate says freak, and I'm just like, that's such a classic Disney insult. Calling the popular kid, calling someone who's not popular a freak. Mm-hmm. And then Miranda's like, what did you just call my friend? And then she's like, she'd have to be a freak to be your friend.
Shots fired.
And then Kate's like, I'm not the one with green hair. But Miranda, you are the one with orange hair.
Correct.
So, and then Kate says, that's it. I've gone easy on you. Which, again, I would love to see later season Kate deliver this. Because this Kate is not cutting it. Kate says, "That's it. I've got easy on you. That little stunt with Danny Kessler and the posters all over the school, that was nothing. I'm a cheerleader. I can turn the whole school against you."
Which is so interesting to me because she literally just made the cheerleading squad, 2 days ago?
Right, and
she has that kind of power.
I know, right? Which I was going to bring that up later when we get to the pep rally.
Oh, but, right.
I'm just like, dang, girl, ugh. And then Miranda says, "The whole school?" And she goes, "No, just everyone that's going to be at the pep rally." Which, if it's any school, the whole school's forced to go to.
It's required attendance.
So, I don't know how that works, but whatever. Back at the McGuire house, Joe and Sam are talking about Lizzie the Lizard and Matt again. And, she's like, Joe says, "Poor Matt, his confidence must be so shaken. I mean, Lizzie the Lizard alive one day, dead and buried the next." Which is just so dramatic.
It is.
And then Sam's looking at the manual for the lizards.
The same manual that he didn't read that said that he was supposed to change the water out.
Exactly. And then it says, "Lizards hibernate. They appear dead while they're actually sleeping." And I wrote, oof. And then they go and dig Lizzie the Lizard up and get her out of her box. And you hear a little tiny, breathing and snoring in the background that they added in later. And then Matt's not buying it. He's like, "She's sleeping?" And she's like, "Yeah, can't you hear her snoring?" And then he says, "They're supposed to sleep like that with their little feet up in the air?" And then Sam later says, "Yeah, there's something about sleeping positions in here."
Oh my goodness.
You should have read the manual beforehand, my guy.
And also, if it was me, I probably would have just taken the lizard back to school dead anyway and been like, "Oh, I thought it was hibernating." I'm not taking the rap for that.
That's a good idea. They should have thought about that. If they read the manual, they would have thought of that. And then Matt, I thought this was funny. Matt closes the box. And so Joe says, "Honey, why don't you open the box? Because she might could use some air."
And I like how every time the box lid opens and closes, there's the squeak of a hinge, even though it's just a cardboard box.
Absolutely. The special effects or the sound effects added into Lizzie McGuire throughout the episodes are so funny to me.
They
are.
Also
the little flashbacks or I don't know what you would call them, little scenarios of if this were to happen, and it makes that bloop 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 noise.
Mm-hmm.
I love those. There's one of Kate where she's staring menacingly and there's a red glow on her face.
Yeah.
And I think there was wolves or evil witch sounds in the background when they did that.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things about Lizzie McGuire was those little special things they put in there. Okay, next. And then Sam gives Matt the advice, "Hey, you might want to turn her back on her feet before you take her back to school."
Yeah.
So at school, they're getting ready for the pep rally, and Gordo says, why are our pep rallies required? The school day isn't embarrassing enough that we have to sing about it. So Kate, there is a hole in your plot. Yes, the whole school will be there to see you humiliate
Maybe
Miranda.
That's the way that she meant it. The whole school. And she's like, well, just everybody who will be at the pep rally, which is everybody. Yeah.
Well, I hope so. And then we see Kate and Claire having this very loud conversation, but a conversation they want the gang to hear. And Kate says, "I actually feel kind of sorry for her." And Claire says, "Really?" And Kate's like, "No." And then so Lizzie starts freaking out again. And she says, "I can't take it anymore. I have to tell her." And then Miranda's like, "Lizzie, don't. I can handle this." And then she's trying to talk herself into it. She's like, "I can handle this. I can handle this whole thing, and I'm going to take responsibility for it." And then I wrote down, why is Miranda holding a cheetah print wallet necklace holder? So, and also Lizzie had one of those camo, over-the-shoulder satchel backpacks.
Yes.
And those were the thing to have I remember back then.
I demanded a satchel backpack, and it was because of this show.
I loved my satchel backpack. Me too. I had a satchel backpack. It was pink.
Mine was blue.
So I think that was definitely a Lizzie McGuire influence.
Absolutely.
Also, when they're walking in the hallway, I wrote down, why are the other students full-grown adults?
I thought that very same thing. I was like, what is with the extra casting in here? Like, did they just have everybody's like older brothers and sisters come to set that day?
They were all over 6 feet tall.
It literally.
And I'm just like, what in the world? Like that girl definitely has a full-time job. But I was walking behind them. Full-grown adults. And they're in the bleachers, too, at the pep rally. I'm like, Those are full-grown adults. Those are not middle schoolers. And then I also had on, Lizzie has on cargo pants that you could wear now because cargo pants are back in style.
They're back.
So, yeah, Lizzie. So she goes up to Kate again for the 4th time, and Kate delivers some major attitude. And she's like, I. And then Kate's like, tick, tock, tick, tock. And then she turns back around and she goes, oh no, this is before Kate turns around. She goes, Miranda didn't do it. And then Kate's like, did what? And I said, are you dumb? What else could she what else could she be talking about, Kate? Ugh. And then Lizzie tries to say it again, and then she's like, I, and then Kate's like, hello, bored. And then she turns around, and then Lizzie gets real confident.
Yep.
She grabs Kate on the shoulder, and she's like, hey. And then Kate's like, you touched me. And then she's like, and Lizzie says, yeah, because I wasn't finished talking to you.
And here I say, go off, Lizzie, on spinning Kate around, because literally at this point in time, I am cringing within my own skin watching this go down, because this is now the 4th exchange where Lizzie has tried to tell the truth and couldn't get it out. And I'm like, come on.
Yeah. Says, because I wasn't finished talking to you. And then Kate's like, what has gotten into you? And then she makes her big confession, and she says, Miranda didn't write that instant message. I did. I was jealous that you made cheerleader, and I didn't. I'm sorry about what I said. It was rude, and I wish I could take it back. And then Kate says, wow, I have to say, Lizzie, I didn't think you had it in you to stand up to me. Good for you. And then Lizzie says, I've been practicing. So, I guess that means you're not going to ruin Miranda's life? And Kate says, of course not. That would be mean.
And you know right here what is about to happen. You know right here the fate that is about to befall Lizzie.
And, okay, well, I'll say this after. The cheerleaders all get together, and they start the UGLY cheer. And it says, UGLY, you ain't got no alibi, you ugly. And then it says, at the end, it says, who's the girl we love to hate? Lizzie, Lizzie, big loser, loser.
And here I say, why are Lizzie, Gordo, and Miranda still standing in the middle of the court in this pep rally? Like, why aren't they up in the bleachers with everybody else? Like, so uncomfortable. And then again,
everybody's staring at them.
Where are the teachers?
That's what
Where
I said
are the
too.
teachers?
I said, where are the adults to stop this from happening? And also,
but then I also, sorry. I was going to say, I also said that shows like this are what convinced me that I could be a cheerleader in middle school, because it's so low stakes. Like,
literally,
cheerleading at my school was so high stakes. Like, if you did not have a round off back handspring, you were not making the squad. And
right.
Here on these like Disney shows, you know, you've got these cheerleaders that have mid kicks, low jumps, and you've only got 2 girls on the entire squad that can do any kind of tumbling.
Yes, exactly. And also what I was going to say was, did Kate just go up and be like, okay, change it to Lizzie instead of Miranda? But if you put Miranda in with this cheer, it doesn't work. It doesn't fit because Miranda has more syllables than Lizzie.
It does.
And that doesn't work. But yes, I also wrote, where are the adults? Where is Coach Kelly? This is her gym.
It is. You're on my turf, McGuire.
Yes. So, yes, after the pep rally, we see Lizzie, Gordo, and Miranda sitting there, and she says standing up to Kate was actually fun. Oh, also, at the end of the cheer, they did the L sign. loser. Or I did
Love
the
it.
wrong loser. And then also in the cheer, they were covering their face when they were spelling ugly. Did you see that?
Yes. It was like peekaboo.
So after the pep rally, Lizzie, Gordo, and Miranda are standing there, and we see the other kids filing out of the gym, and everybody is like pointing and staring and calling Lizzie a loser, which I know kids can be cruel, but I feel like there would be some kids that would have sympathy, you know? Like,
For sure.
that would be like,
I don't think
okay.
every kid would just like bandwagon on. Like, I think there
Right.
would be a very small percentage of kids that would feed into that, and the rest would just kind of move on with their day.
Right, they would like awkwardly walk by and be like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
sorry that happened. So Miranda's like, everyone's staring at you. And Lizzie says, well, at least I know who I am now. I feel empowered and strong. I mean, I feel like a huge weight's been lifted. And I'm like, good for you, girl. Good for you. And then a kid comes up to them and said, it's the same kid that asked Kate if she had any extra tissues.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, we get our first reference to Larry Tudgman.
The Tudge.
He says, Did you guys hear? Larry Tudgman picked his nose and then ate it, and then Danny Kessler caught it on tape. Major ick.
But also totally something that would happen. And
Yes.
like,
Tudgman would.
Tudgman would.
And then Gordo, again, says, well, you're officially yesterday's news. The herd's moved on. Shut up, Gordo.
Not helping.
And then we exit the episode with Miranda saying, so you guys want to go see if we can find a copy of that tape? And so they all run off to go find a copy of the Tudgman tape.
And here
The
I
end.
say, I just love, at the end of this, I don't think we get, like, outtakes in every episode. I think it's kind of sporadic. But I love that when we do get outtakes, we get outtakes of animated Lizzie as well. And think of how much, like,
Yes.
extra work goes into that. So I just, like, appreciate that callback to animated Lizzie and that, tying together of the two things.
I agree, yes. So, what do you think of the first episode?
Loved it. I mean, I can't necessarily speak to how I felt as a kid watching this, but like I was sat for every single episode of Lizzie McGuire. So
Absolutely.
like clearly this episode did it for me back then. It does it for me now. I agree with you that it totally stands up to the test of time. It really just encapsulates the middle school experience so beautifully. Even though things are different now and were even different when we were in middle school because, we're watching this show as elementary schoolers.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a universal experience. It just is.
Absolutely, yes. And also, let me just say, they would have in 2025, if they had that video of Larry Tudgman, someone would have put it in a group chat somewhere, and it would have gotten to everybody.
1,000,000%. It would be on
So-
TikTok already.
Because that's how these teeny boppers work now.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that probably would have happened when we were in high school, too, because we had iPhones and group chat.
True.
So, but yeah, so I enjoyed this episode. It's not one that I remember that stands out to me. Like there are
Yeah.
a few episodes that are like standout Lizzie McGuire episodes.
Absolutely.
And but I do remember this. But like I said, I remember long hair Lizzie more than short hair Lizzie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but yeah, I enjoyed it. It still to this day, I'm just like, ugh. I feel like I could be at home after school, like peak nostalgia.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For sure.
To do with this particular thing, and we can add more as we think of it as we go through the series, is what was our favorite outfits or early 2000s reference, or favorite line or something. I don't know. I personally really liked it when Lizzie said, "I'm outie." Like,
Yep.
that was so 2000s-esque.
This is not 2000s, but Miranda going, "Oh, I'll be around." Is the most, it has to be the most iconic.
She said
line
it
of the
so
episode.
confidently that I was
She
like,
did.
"You go, girl. You go, girl." And then I really, like I said, I liked Kate's outfit with the pink mock neck. No, pink sleeveless turtleneck and the white skirt. And then I also wrote down somewhere that Miranda had, it wasn't the spider buns. It was, she had her bangs down and then her hair back. It was kind of like a half up, half down, but it was braids on top of her head. And she had on a colorful shirt, but the rubber bands in her braids matched her shirt.
Oh,
all the different colors, which is a very Miranda thing.
There was no one outfit to me that really like stood out, but towards the very beginning of the episode, I think the first shot that we get from within Lizzie's school, the inflatable backpack, is just,
loved it.
It's just everything to me.
I loved it. I loved everything about it. I love Lizzie's platform flip-flops. I love the cargo pants. She is the moment.
She is the moment. She is an icon. She is a legend, and she is the moment.
If you want to follow along with us, we will be recapping Picture Day next with the iconic unicorn sweater.
Amazing.
And yeah. Oh, one other comment I did have was we hear about Danny Kessler for like 3 episodes, and then he gets replaced by Ethan Kraft.
So true.
I think there's like 1 episode where both of them are in it, and then Ethan was like, move over.
I mean, fair though.
Fair. Okay, so we will be talking next week, and maybe Danny Kessler will be there. Who knows? His time is running out though. But Picture Day is coming up. This was a standout episode for me.
Absolutely.
Growing up. This one is, I feel like, one of the most memorable Lizzie McGuire episodes. So if you want to watch it before, so you're kind of caught up on what we are talking about, please watch on Disney Plus, or who knows, maybe you can find it on YouTube. So that about does it, and we'll see you next week, or hear us next week. Bye.
We're outie.
We're outie.